Peace and welcome to Oddly Familiar. I am ICC, and today we have 10 random video game songs that may or may not sound familiar to you. With no further delay, let's jump right in. Here is Oddly Familiar. Our first up comes from the 1987 game on the NES, Kid Icarus, the Angel Land theme. And here is The Girl I Left Behind Me, an old English folk song.
For she's as fair as Shannon, silent, purer than its water. But she refused to be my bride, though many a year I saw her. Yes,
The Girl I Left Behind Me dates anywhere from the 1600s to the 1700s. There is no exact date that's known, so it was only about 200 or 300 years before Kid Icarus, which was released in the States on July 1st of 1987. The soundtrack was composed by Hirokazu Tanaka, a regular on our little series here. Number 9 comes from a game that has many songs that are influenced by metal songs, and this one is no different. Here is the second stage background theme from Spider-Man and Venom, Maximum Carnage. The track that inspired this portion is named I'm Broken by Pantera. It's not the entire track from Maximum Carnage, but that little snippet definitely has an I'm Broken feel to it. I'm Broken comes from the Far Beyond Driven album by Pantera, which was released in March of 1994. Now fast forward to September of 1994, and Maximum Carnage was released for sale in North America. This one was easy for me to pick up because Far Beyond Driven was the first Pantera album I ever purchased on my own. I heard their previous albums, but this one sealed the deal. After that, I ended up purchasing every single Pantera album. Our number 8 slot is from Back to the Future on the NES, Enchantment Under the Sea. And here is Johnny B Goode by Chuck Berry. While it does sound like Johnny B Goode on crack like the fucking nerd said, just like the previous entry, this one is even more familiar once you mess with the speed. They couldn't get the rights to the song in the game, so they just sped it up until it was almost unrecognizable. Here is what it sounds like when it's slowed down, with a little Chuck Berry mixed in.
it's like a ring in a bell. Go, go! Oh, Johnny, go, go!
Now you can see what I mean. Once you mess with the speed, Johnny B Goode can definitely be heard. Up next in our number 7 slot is Streets of Rage, Keep on Groovin'. Here is Derek and the Dominoes, a song named Layla. This is one of the more similar ones on the list, and Streets of Rage is one of our favorite beat 'em ups around here, so we have heard these tunes quite a bit. We want to do a Streets of Rage episode sometime, I just don't want to recycle old submissions, so if we can find 10 new ones, we will definitely do an episode. So feel free to leave some more Streets of Rage songs. Next up is Earthbound on the Super Nintendo. Here is Moonside Swing. Now here is Rick Ocasek, Keep On Laughing. While the entire Earthbound track has a similar kind of feel, it's only really on the intro of Keep On Laughing, and yeah, it's not exact, but that sounds to me like it could have inspired the Earthbound song. Up next is a terrible game, or should I say 52 of them. Action 52 on the NES, a song named Fuzz Power. Now compare that to Activision's The Music Studio. It may not sound alike at first because it's slowed down so much, but if you take the Music Studio demo song and play it in double speed, you will hear this. Now that should sound a lot more familiar. It's almost exact once you speed it up. Activision's Music Studio came out in 1985 and Action 52 7 years later in 1992. This one is obviously the same, however, both of the songs were composed by Ed Bogus, so this one is on purpose and not a coincidence. Up next is another one from Back to the Future on the NES. Here is the stage theme. And now here is the theme from the Back to the Future movie, The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News. If you didn't hear it at first, let's slow down the NES track. I think this one is a little bit more hidden than the previous entry because I actually heard the Johnny B Goode while playing the game, but this one here, I didn't make the connection until 20 years later. If you still didn't hear it, here's a little mashup of the two. In at number 3, we have the first part of a double whammy. Here is the Vanguard arcade game. And here is Attack of the Hawkmen by Queen. Vanguard was released in 1981, and Attack of the Hawkmen was released by Queen for the movie Flash Gordon in 1980. The entire Flash Gordon soundtrack was done by Queen. It's their first soundtrack album and their 9th official studio album. Attack of the Hawkmen is also known as Voltan's theme, so if you search for the song, try that and it may be easier to find.
Bon voyage.
Our number 2 spot is the second part of the double whammy. Here is a different song from the Vanguard arcade game.
Bon Voyage.
If you didn't recognize that one, here is what's playing during the end credits of the first Star Trek motion picture. Now you may have heard that before. If you have ever watched Star Trek The Next Generation, then you will recognize it. They use this portion as their main theme. Just a fun fact for you. The Next Generation didn't come out until 1987, so it's obvious they pulled it from the Star Trek motion picture from 1979. With Vanguard coming out in 1981, it just might be the first and oldest entry in Oddly Familiar so far. And I want to give a quick shout out to the person who submitted this double whammy. Thanks to TR Kobe, if that's how you pronounce it. If anyone has an entry that would predate this one, feel free to let me know.
Bon Voyage.
As always, we try and save the best for last. Some of you might remember this from episode number 1, Bridge Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog on the Master System and Game Gear versions. Now in the first Oddly Familiar episode, I compared Bridge Zone to the intro of Full House, but now try this one on for size. Here is Dragon Slayer 4 on the MSX. Dragon Slayer 4 was released on July 10th of 1987, and Full House made its debut on September 22nd of 1987. And any similarity is strictly coincidence. However, when comparing the Sonic song with the Dragon Slayer song, I would definitely say this one is inspired and not stolen, because the Sonic track and the Dragon Slayer 4 track were both composed by Yuzo Koshiro. Dragon Slayer 4 was released on the NES in the United States as Legacy of the Wizard, and you can find the theme on the NES version as well. So with this episode coming to a close, I just want to say I usually don't edit the songs or include mashups. I try to trust the viewers to be able to hear it, but sometimes a mashup does help and maybe it would be fun to hear. So from now on, every now and then you may hear an edited song, but I will always include a note so you will know when it's edited or not. And I will still include the original as well. I'll just make room to play both. But anyways, for now, I am ICC. Thanks for watching. Peace.